Alright, next we have the fourth film of the Heisei era, Mothra vs. Godzilla. This one's another good classic Godzilla film with this classic lineup of being directed by Ishiro Honda with special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya and music by Akira Ifukube. This is another one of my favorite Godzilla films. It was the second one I've seen after the original, and it was the original and this one that got me into Godzilla films as a kid. This film is the second appearance of Mothra after the original film Mothra that was made by Toho a few years prior in, I believe, 1961. The tone of this film is a little more serious than the last one and is probably one of the final more serious Godzilla films where Godzilla is posing a threat to humanity. After this one, he starts to become more and more of a hero type character and ends up becoming more of like a defender of Earth from this point forward. As far as plot goes, I think this is one of the better films. The human characters in this one are, I think, better written and more memorable than in many of the other films. The human characters in this one are a photographer and reporter who find the Mothra egg and try to protect it from a businessman that tries to exploit it and create a exhibit out of it. It's a little funny that in the very next movie they reuse the same plot point of having a businessman try to make a show out of a giant monster in order to profit his company. But I think this one's done a little bit better and is not as silly as the Godzilla vs. King Kong. This one doesn't have as many fun fights as the previous film, King Kong vs. Godzilla, but they're still pretty good. The first fights with Mothra are pretty short. Mothra initially is able to get some damage on Godzilla, but eventually Godzilla hits him with the atomic breath and the Mothra dies. But two Mothra larvae hatch from new eggs and they come to fight Godzilla, and they are able to drive Godzilla off into the sea. When I was a kid, I thought this fight was really cool. Watching it now, it didn't look as good as I remember. Kind of seemed kind of strange that Godzilla was able to be driven off by just the silk spray from the Mothra larva. Seemed like it was too easy, but it was still an enjoyable film. The human characters were more memorable than in many of the other films, and it's definitely got the classic style and classic feel that all the old Heisei era Godzilla films have, all the Ishiro Honda directed Godzilla films had, that makes it definitely worth watching. This one I would give 4 stars out of 5, as it's one of the last classic Godzilla films from the Heisei era. Depending on my mood, I'll either prefer this one or King Kong vs. Godzilla, which I also gave 4 stars in my last review. It's a bit hard to say. I think this one's a better film, but admittedly is less fun than King Kong vs. Godzilla. Either way, I would say both of them are some of the best in the franchise, so give them both a watch.